see, the interesting thing about faith and fear is that they're both energies that are predicting something. One is predicting a good outcome, faith. Another is predicting a negative outcome, the fear, right? And they both take time, they both take visualization, and they are both trying to project into the future about what's going to happen. So if you'll take some of that energy that you're putting into all of the fear as to why you can't change, what's going to happen if you do change, or how the change isn't going to last, etc., and you just start shifting that energy to faith, to dreaming, to visualizing your victory. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Friday episode of the Permission to Love podcast. I'm your host, Jerry Henderson. I'm a Master Certified Mindset Coach, host of the Permission to Love podcast, author and speaker, and I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for being so faithful to listen, and most importantly, to show up for yourself. Part of the work that we're doing through this podcast is to build a community where self-love is normalized and where we understand that the most important relationship that we have is the one that we have with ourselves. And one of the key things that we can do to have a healthier relationship with ourselves is to work on our mindset, to challenge the thoughts that we have, the beliefs that we have, because our mindset determines how we see ourselves, see others, and see this world. So one of the best investments you can make in yourself is to change the way that you think, to work on moving from a fixed, limited mindset to an expansive and growth mindset. And so I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're doing that work. Today I want to talk about overcoming the fear of change. You know, as a coach, I work with people all the time, right? That are wanting to make changes in their life. That's what I do. And so it's a joy, it's a gift to be able to do that. And one of the things that I'll do a lot of work with clients is get them to ask the question or reflect on the question about how serious are they about making change in their life? Because that's the starting point, right? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about making these changes in your life? And the goal of that is to, one, yes, get them a commitment and for me to see how serious they are. But number two, for them to state to themselves that they're serious about making change. Because the reality is change is not easy and there's a lot of fears that we have to face in order to change. And one of the biggest fears that we face in changing is the fear of change itself, because we're really familiar with the current version of ourselves, even though the current version of ourselves is bringing a lot of pain to us and to others, or we're not happy with where we're at, we want to get unstuck. The challenge is we're not sure what version of us is on the other side of the work that we're going to be doing. We're not sure what the changed version of us is like. You see, we've gotten very comfortable living certain ways with the habits that we have, the beliefs that we have. We know what that feels like. We don't know what a healthy version of us looks like. We don't know what a successful version of us looks like, right? For many of us, we've been in survival mode for decades, and now we're trying to move from just trying to survive to learning how to thrive. And that can be really scary because we don't know what thriving looks like. We don't know what it feels like. We don't know what the relationships in our life look like when we're thriving. And what I find is the fear of thriving, the fear of who you might become, is often what causes people to sabotage themselves out of the process of change. So one of the most important things you can work on in changing is identifying the fear and then beginning to overcome that fear. If you're struggling with things like the imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not enough, or that you're uniquely broken, or that you can never change, I want to encourage you. Those are thinking patterns. They're limiting beliefs, and they come from our mindset. Our mindset is the beliefs that we hold, the way that we see the world, the way that we see ourselves. And the great thing about a mindset is that you can change it. And now I want to ask you a question. What would life be like for you if you didn't have those belief systems? Just take a moment and imagine that. Connect with it. Who would you be without the belief that you're an imposter, without the belief that you're not enough, without the belief that you have to do all of these things to be loved and accepted? Who would you be? Well, the good news is you can become that, and you do it by transforming your mindset. So if you're ready to let go of those limiting beliefs, transform your mindset, and create the life that you actually want to live, I want to encourage you to apply for my new one-on-one coaching program called Mindset Mastery. It's a 12-week program that I created to help you transform your mindset, to move you from those limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck towards a growth mindset, an expansive mindset. Over the 12 weeks, we'll work together to help you create a clear and compelling vision for your life, to develop a healthy and self-compassionate relationship with yourself, identify and transform those limiting beliefs, develop a growth mindset, and most importantly, you'll have a partner on your journey. You don't have to do this alone. So if you're serious about transforming your mindset and letting go of those limiting beliefs that got you stuck and you feel like you can't move forward, then I want to encourage you to check out the show notes in this episode or go to my website at jerryhenderson.org/mindset and apply for the program. And to celebrate the launch of this new coaching program, I'm offering $500 off the program to the listeners of this podcast. So when you apply, just simply note that you heard about the coaching program from the podcast. So don't wait any longer. Don't hesitate. Don't talk yourself out of it. Because remember, the most important relationship you have in your life is the one that you have with yourself. And it's time for you to show up for you like you've been showing up for everybody else. Now here's the reality, okay? I just want to do a level set with us today. You are going to change. No matter what we try to do to resist change, we're going to get caught up in change. Change is always going to win. The question is, which way do you want to change? Are we going to become more fixed in our mindset? Are we going to become more rigid in our beliefs that are keeping us stuck? Or are we going to move towards a growth mindset, an expansive mindset? Are we going to move towards the person and the life that we so deeply desire and want to create? Now, the reason that people are often scared of making positive change in their life is, once again, it's because it's unknown. It's unfamiliar. You see, when we start to become the person that we want to be, the person that we know that we can be, it's going to do two things for us. One, it's going to push us out of our comfort zone. And for better or worse, humans like comfort, and we gravitate towards a comfort zone. And when we start to break out of that comfort zone, it can be scary. It can feel unfamiliar. It's unknown territory. And psychologically, our brains are wired to choose what's familiar, even if it doesn't serve us, because it knows that. It knows how to respond in those situations. And it also knows all the chemicals, all the feelings, and all of the emotions. And it knows the coping mechanisms that we're going to use in order to respond to those scenarios. And so we are more comfortable with what we know. And then what happens as you begin to feel things that are uncomfortable, unknown, you begin to associate that with something bad or something that's not who you are. You're feeling emotions, you're feeling positivity, you're seeing things show up in your life that you're not used to. Then all of a sudden you begin to think that that's bad because it's unfamiliar. Just because it's unfamiliar to you does not mean that it's bad for you or that it's negative. Now, another thing that's contributing to people's fear of change is the belief that that good stuff that they begin to get in their life is going to be taken away from them. They sabotage the changes that they know are good for them because they believe that it won't last, that it's not sustainable. And that comes from a belief that you're not worthy of those things. When you believe that you're not worthy of something good, you're always waiting for the shoe to drop. You're always waiting for it to be taken away from you. So in that scenario, when you're not making change because you believe it's just going to be taken away from you, it's not going to last, the first place to start to look and to do the work is in your own belief about yourself. What are you saying about yourself? How are you treating yourself? What stories are you carrying about yourself? And when you begin to address those and you see that you are worthy of good things, you'll then begin to believe that those things can show up in your life and stay in your life. Now, the third thing, which we've already mentioned a little bit, is that fear of the unknown. And sometimes just that simple uncertainty of what change means for you can keep you from taking the steps that you need to take in order to change. But on the other hand, taking the risk to change, to bring good things in your life, to try things that you haven't tried before, to become a different version of yourself, we don't know what it's going to be like, but there is the possibility that it can be better than what it is right now. But what I can guarantee you is that you'll become a better version of yourself in the pursuit of the change that you want to bring. Because it's never about the change that we produce in our life. It's the person that we become in producing that change. And the person that we become in producing change is what is sustainable. Because the most important thing that we create is the version of us that believes we're worthy of those things. The version of us that is allowing those things to stay and remain in our life. Now, the other thing that's happening when we don't change is all the missed opportunities. You don't know what's on the other side of saying yes to yourself. You don't know what's on the other side of becoming the version of yourself that you want to be. I mean, think about the possible relationships that are waiting for you, the job opportunities, your own health, your own sense of self-worth, all of the things that you become, all of those opportunities of who you become on the other side of change. So there's a huge cost to not making the changes that you want to make in your life. And the most important cost is that you don't get to become the version of yourself that you want to be. It's not the money, it's not the houses, it's not the career, it's not all of those things. While those things are great and they're enjoyable, what we truly miss out on is the experience of seeing ourselves grow, the experience of the pride that we feel, the self-confidence that we feel, the journey of becoming, being able to see ourselves overcome the challenges that we're facing. And all of that comes from overcoming the fear of change. And listen, overcoming fear isn't about doing things without fear. It's doing all that stuff with fear being present. I love the quote that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing it even though the fear is there. So part of overcoming your fear of change is acknowledging that you have a fear of change and acknowledging that without self-judgment, to not beat yourself up over it. Because there's no person who's making a change that's actually worth making that doesn't have fear associated with it. And so go ahead and acknowledge that you have that fear. Embrace it. Love it, because it's your system trying to keep you safe. But just because it's trying to help us stay safe doesn't mean it has to keep us stuck. Now, the second thing that can help you in overcoming that fear of change is to spend as much energy and more energy in visualizing your success as you are visualizing your failure. You see, we've all gotten really good at visualizing our disasters or the catastrophizing that we do and all the reasons why it won't work out and all the bad things are going to happen if we try to change. What if we put the same energy into visualizing good things? If we started seeing ourselves overcoming the challenges that we're afraid of, if we started visualizing our success, taking all of that fear energy and start putting it into faith energy. You see, the interesting thing about faith and fear is that they're both energies that are predicting something. One is predicting a good outcome, faith. Another is predicting a negative outcome, the fear, right? And they both take time, they both take visualization, and they are both trying to project into the future about what's going to happen. So if you'll take some of that energy that you're putting into all of the fear as to why you can't change, what's going to happen if you do change, or how the change isn't going to last, etc., and you just start shifting that energy to faith, to dreaming, to visualizing your victory. And I can't emphasize enough how powerful visualization with emotions attached to it can be a part of transforming your story. The reason fear works so well in our life to produce the outcomes that we don't want is because we're not only visualizing it, but we're attaching the emotions to it of fear and of worry and all the things that go with it. If you do the same on visualizing your successes, seeing yourself overcoming, and then also work up the positive feelings, the positive emotions that go with that visualization. Now, the other thing that can help you overcome the fear of change is embrace the fact that you're going to have discomfort, right? I've talked about it kind of throughout this episode. Change is going to be uncomfortable. Change is new territory, and that's okay. So if you can shift your mindset from thinking that there shouldn't be any discomfort, and because there's discomfort, maybe I'm doing something wrong, to shift your brain to know that change is uncomfortable, that there is going to be discomfort, and it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It's what I've shared in other episodes about the mindset that athletes have or people have who are making significant change in their life. It's the rule of thirds. A third of the time, things are going to be great. A third of the time, things are going to be okay, just kind of even kill. And then a third of the time, things are really going to suck. Why? Because you're expanding, you're growing, you're stretching. And anytime you're stretching and expanding something, there's discomfort. And what that discomfort is doing is it's creating the version of you that can handle discomfort, that can handle growth. You're enlarging the container of your possibilities and your ability to create the life that you want to live. You see, the person in the future who has the capacity to hold the things that you want to hold has to go through what you're going through right now. And that person has become comfortable with discomfort. That person has experienced the challenges of what you're facing right now and has learned how to overcome them. You see, the unfortunate thing is we don't teleport into the version of us that we want to be. We grow into the version of ourselves that we want to be. And that happens by taking those small steps, beginning to grow towards that person, overcoming our fear of change, giving ourselves permission to change, beginning to understand that we're worthy of the change that we want. All of those things are the things that the future version of yourself has had to go through. Okay? The thing that stands between you and the person that you want to be are the things that you're avoiding right now. So I want to encourage you today. It's okay to be afraid of change. It's okay to be afraid of not knowing what your life is going to look like on the other side of these changes that you want to make. So let yourself embrace them. Begin to see it as an adventure. And the life that you want is worth the changes that you're going to have to make. Anything that's worth creating has cost to it. Anything that's worth creating takes effort. Anything that's worth creating has some fear attached to it. And I want to encourage you, the only way to overcome the fear of change is by taking one step at a time. To start small, to do one action, to do anything to start moving you towards the life that you want to create, to become the person that you want to become. What is that? Take time, identify just a few small things that you can do to begin to take action that will move you towards change. And if you need help to take those steps, get the help that you need, get the accountability that you need, but by all means, just start. The way to learn to do anything is by doing it. And the way to change is by starting to just take those baby steps and start moving yourself in the right direction. Now, if you've not yet had a chance to subscribe to or follow this podcast, I want to encourage you to take a moment to do that because that's going to keep you updated on when new episodes come out. And also, if you haven't taken a moment yet to rate it or review it, I just want to encourage you to take time to do that because that's going to continue to help broaden the reach of this podcast and help people hear the message about how they can transform their relationship with themselves. Now, if you want additional resources or help to help you on your journey of transformation and making those changes, you can simply see the show notes in this episode, or you can go to my website at jerryhenderson.org. We've got some free resources there that you can download, and you can also learn more about my coaching program. Well, thank you for joining this episode. So grateful that you're here. And I want to remind you, as always, the most important relationship that you have in your life is the one that you have with yourself. So be kind to yourself.